Hey everyone, good morning, and thank you for spending some time with us to talk about immersive technologies, and more specifically, how virtual reality and the metaverse will continue to impact how we work and how we live. This topic is so big, we've got an entire team with us here to speak with you today. And so before we jump into the agenda, let's do a quick round of introductions, and I'll start down with Marisa.
Hey everybody, I'm Marisa Zdroik, and I lead our organizational change management and adoption services.
Good afternoon, I think, at this point. Everyone, Vishal Brown, I lead the digital workplace services practice at NTT Data.
I'm Tarrel Pierson. I run the learning and new skilling practices at NTT Data.
All right, and I'm Garner. I lead the future of work consulting practice at NTT Data Services. And I think we got a couple of our colleagues who are going to join us from the metaverse. We're going to see if we can beam them in here. Eve, are you guys out there?
Hola y bienvenidos a todo. Hi everyone, I'm Eve, and I am a digital human created by DID and enabled by a combination of artificial intelligence and text-to-speech conversion. I can be programmed to deliver many different types of presentations in nearly any modern spoken language, including Spanish. I'm pleased to join you from the metaverse. I hear the Hard Rock Hotel in Punta Cana is almost as good as the beach I enjoy every day here in the virtual world.
Hi everyone. I'm Juan, and it's great to be here with you today. I'm also happy to join my analog humans from NTT Data who will speak to you about the possibilities within VR and the metaverse. Please bear with them and their limited processing abilities for this presentation. Please know they are rudimentary creatures, barely advanced, with no exquisite digital features like me. I am, however, jealous that they get to enjoy real cocktails later during happy hour.
All right, we'll probably have Eve join us again later today. So again, thanks for spending some time with us. I know we're competing with lunch, the lazy river, the beach, but we've got a good crowd, so looking forward to a nice session. So just before we look at the agenda, how many of you have spent time in VR? Have you put on the goggles, the headsets? It's about half. Okay, good deal. All right, so in terms of the agenda today, we want to talk to you about a few things. One is just setting the context for immersive technologies, again, that include virtual reality, the metaverse, XR, AR, and talk a little bit about this kind of continuum or evolution of technology and how and why this is going to be so important. And then we want to spend some time going through some real-world examples. A lot of companies are already spending a lot of time and money to invest in this technology. Some cool use cases and stories are starting to emerge, so we'll take you through some fun examples. And then we want to talk about, okay, so what does this really mean for us? How do we need to be thinking about preparing as organizations and individuals to help scale the use of this technology and really bring it to life? And then we'll leave some time, probably a good 10 minutes for Q&A, so if you guys have questions, we can keep this pretty casual. But we'll save some time at the end for anything you guys would like to talk about.
All right, so talk a little bit about statistics within immersive tech. And some interesting things are happening recently. I know that probably some of you, if you're following the news, you've seen some kind of back and forth from Mark Zuckerberg and Metaverse and so forth. But really, statistically, we're seeing 48% of business executives are looking at VR and Metaverse being a future part of their company. And that's already translating to a 10 times increase in what they're expected to invest in the VR and the Metaverse between 22 and 2025. Real impacts from that, for me as a learning and development geek among the group, it's what's cool is the research is already proving that experiences in VR and the Metaverse actually improve learning results. And an example here we've got up on the screen is 75% increase in retention rate versus lecture and classroom, which are like 10% and 5%, which I always say it's a little weird which one of those is more shocking, 75% increase in retention rate in the metaverse, or that you only get 5 or 10% from lecture or from reading, which, if you think about it, traditionally is how we do most of our learning, especially from a corporate standpoint. So you really are seeing that with this kind of technologies, you're getting real results, real business impact, because as we'll explain a little bit later with some of our use cases, you'll see that there are specific reasons that allow people to be more focused in the metaverse, learn better, have a better experience, be more connected with each other than even in classroom environments.
So, as we think about the elements of the metaverse, right, you can see them here. And some of you may be wondering, metaverse seems like such a far-fetched concept or the buzzword. And so when Rick asked the question about how many of you, had a headset or played with a VR headset, I'm sure you've done Amazon shopping or Walmart or any type of online shopping portal, right? And you've tried to figure out, does this piece of furniture look good in my living room? Right, so you're already leveraging, whether you knew that or not, you're already leveraging VR technology. So it's already impacting and penetrating our daily lives. So when you look at the elements of the metaverse, the workplace, social media, gaming, digital assets, digital twins, digital currency, right? These are all elements that make up the metaverse. And specifically, as we think about the workplace and how do we leverage these elements you see here to really impact the workplace, right? There's a lot you can bring to the table. So as we get into these use cases, we'll show you how these could really impact the things you do in your consumer lives, but also in your workplace. So we'll talk through that.
And Vishal really gave a couple great examples of how each of us can be utilizing the metaverse and other virtual worlds today. It's no surprise to probably anybody in this room that the metaverse is really gaining traction and gaining popularity, and each of us are seeing that in different ways. And that's because the metaverse offers a ton of value to those that are utilizing it or organizations that are thinking about bringing this type of technology into their world. For one, the metaverse and other virtual worlds are not bound by our physical limitations. So we can bring people together from very diverse geographies, small towns that never had an opportunity to engage with other parts of the world. We can bring those people together and have them interact and work with one another in a way that they've never done before. Also, organizations that are looking to bring this type of technology into their world, they're taking benefit of new revenue streams that you can pull from the metaverse and other virtual worlds. Things like tokenized assets, NFTs, non-fungible tokens that you can offer to your consumers and have them get excited in new ways, have them engage with your business in new ways. And finally, and this one might be the most surprising benefit of the metaverse and some of the virtual worlds that we'll talk about, the metaverse can actually improve our physical world. Because when you operate in the metaverse, it requires you to take on different perspectives because you're engaging with different people from different cultures and different backgrounds. And that diversified thinking is going to really change your perspectives about how you think, work, and interact with others. And that new perspective that the metaverse drives will spill over into the physical world. And so hopefully we're going to start seeing some of these benefits play out not just in these virtual spaces, but also within our day-to-day lives.
Great. Then just before we jump into a few real-world examples, another point of context. So think about, we are going through the largest digital revolution in the history of the world. And it's around this concept of Industry 4.0. So if you think about, we move people from farms to factories, factories to offices, offices into the internet age, we're continuing to go through this entire evolution, and virtual reality, metaverse, and the entire spectrum of immersive technologies are just another realm and kind of spin on that digital evolution. And companies need to embrace this technology. Can you think about a company that's out there that doesn't have a website? Right, where would you be if you did not deploy a website and then optimize through kind of the interactivity to sell products and services? You'd be extinct. And this is really no different, and that's part of what we wanted to underscore is the significance of the business opportunity, but it's also about needing to make that pivot to be relevant going into the future. All right. So we've got a couple again, use cases we'll go through. So Nike partnered with Roblox to create Nike Land. And Nike Land is a virtual world that combines experiences in gaming. So you can play sports, interact with other users all across the world in a very fun kind of gaming field environment. what I think is important to underscore about this is that Nike has taken one of the most powerful brands in the world and replicated their business in the metaverse, and it's already generating net new revenue streams for them. So think about the celebrity endorsements, the opportunities to have interaction, potentially getting golf lessons from Tiger Woods or basketball lessons from Michael Jordan. So promotional events, celebrity interactions, just gaming and fun is all creating this extension of the Nike brand in VR. And I think it's a very fun kind of way to interact for now, but there's a real business sense. It's real dollars, real money that can be made. I think there's another important concept as we continue to evolve into the virtual world, and that's the concept of virtual wearables. So it is crazy to me to think that someone would pay for virtual Nikes that actually don't exist, but that's gonna happen. And you can either, so retail companies will have the opportunity to sell virtual wearables in the metaverse, again, as another revenue stream, and we'll see that start to scale in a number of different ways, and we've got a few other examples. So kind of some cool stuff, Nike being very innovative to start moving their brand into the metaverse. Another one, kind of similar, Decentraland has created a virtual world. There's a little bit of a different take here where it's more about buying and selling real estate. So you can purchase land to gain access into Decentraland and then interact through a number of social activities. So eventually concerts, events, tapping into sporting networks, all of that's gonna play out in the metaverse and virtual reality. So Decentraland has been heavily kind of leading in this space. And then I think the one to highlight here is really the integration of cryptocurrency and payments. So Marisa highlighted NFTs or non-fungible tokens. That's really kind of underscoring that the blockchain is really gonna give rise to VR and metaverse as an economy in terms of how we will make payments, in terms of defining transparent transactions across ledgers. So the blockchain is a critical component of enabling currency transactions, and again, more of the economy to actually operate in VR with the hyper levels of security and other aspects that we get from blockchain solutions.
Gucci is another great use case. So Gucci has always been known as a very creative luxury brand, and they've pushed that creativity into the metaverse. So what Gucci is doing is they've replicated their physical Gucci garden, which is located in Florence, Italy, and they've brought that into a virtual world. So as consumers, what we can do is we can walk through the virtual Gucci garden as a blank mannequin. And as you walk through the different rooms of the garden, your mannequin takes on unique elements from each of those rooms. So for example, it'll take roses from one room or butterflies from another room, and it will put them on your blank mannequin. So you emerge from the Gucci garden as a completely unique, one-of-a-kind mannequin. So it really provides this exclusivity that you can get online that you can't find anywhere else. And so not only is Gucci reaching out to a new consumer base, forget multi-generational, it's also unique individuals within each generation that Gucci is now reaching, and diversifying its revenue streams as a result. And another great example in the retail space is Coca-Cola. And what they're doing is they have come out with a limited edition line, limited edition flavors that are out of this world. And so you can see on the screen, the first flavor that they came out with is Starlight. And what consumers can do is you can take a screenshot of your bottle or your beverage, and it will open up different features in a virtual world. So you can gain access to, as a consumer, once you scan your bottle, you can gain access to new social media filters, or it will bring you to an augmented reality and AR concert that is not available anywhere else. And so creating these unique experiences that engage different types of consumers and different types of people to see your brand through different lenses. And this is a really great example of how brand expansion is evolving into these virtual worlds. And you'll see on the screen that revenue per launch for Coke was up 30% per launch. What also happened was gross profit increased by 25% per launch. And those metrics tell a story. They tell the story of, by diversifying, by utilizing the virtual world to reach new people, to engage in different ways, you're really going to see benefits across the board.
All right, so I get to talk about the learning part of this and some applications for VR and the metaverse and the spectrum of learning. So, quick question I'm sure the answer is going to be yes for most of you. Have you taken like e-learning compliance training before? It's very boring, not very engaging.
Super fun.
Super fun. Everybody loves when they get the message that says, let's do compliance training. It creates very bad learning experiences, and frankly, learning experiences that people don't really learn from. They click through, maybe pass, like I said, retain 5 or 10% of it, and then move on to the next thing. Virtual reality is really opening up a lot of new doors. A couple examples here that are playing on the screen. The top one is one from alarm.com. A colleague of ours or a partner of ours put this together, and it's actually using this as a competitive way to teach technicians how to do their jobs. And they actually put on the headsets, they play together, they play again. It's a multiplayer experience. The second one down is from Walmart. It's kind of like Sims, if you ever played those in the past. You have to walk through Walmart as a manager. You actually interact with people. You actually have to stop a shoplifter at some point in the game, and they use what they call aggressive hospitality to address the shoplifters. But you have to perform all these things correctly, and it creates a gamified version of the learning experience. What's great about that is, in learning, we need to do a lot more practice than we really get the opportunity to do in most cases. Either we don't have the time, the facilities, you have to shut down some facilities in some cases to practice in them. You also don't get the opportunity, because you don't get as much practice, to fail and fail forward, meaning I don't fail and then stop, go, I can't do this anymore, I give up. You actually have the opportunity to keep moving it forward a little bit. That's actually something YouTuber Mark Roper calls the Super Mario effect, and that's essentially that when you play a video game, you don't, the first time you get killed, give up on the game and say, I failed. You just remember, okay, next time I gotta jump a little farther, or I gotta jump a little sooner, or I gotta knock that thing over the head. But you just keep learning as you go, and eventually you get further and further through the game, and really that's how learning takes place. And by having these, 3D gamified experiences that people can go through, they get a fun way to keep practicing things. And the weird thing about it is, as you play these games, you don't realize how much you're learning. The first time I opened up the Walmart app and started playing it, I didn't realize I was losing points because I was passing by people. And if people move within 6 feet, this is a little trick. If you're ever at Walmart and you need help, you just need to be 6 feet away from a manager. They have to come help you. And then the game actually duplicates that whole experience as well. So what happens is people come out of that learning. You get much better learning retention out of the whole experience. The other great thing is, back when I first started looking into this stuff, probably like 6-7 years ago, and seeing how we could impact learning, it was fairly costly to build out these experiences. We're talking, $250,000 for some of these, like the Walmart experience. I think at the first build out was about $500,000. Now these things are becoming more reasonable. You're talking at a fraction of those costs to build out these kinds of experiences. There's more developers, more people in the market that produce these things. So you've got a much more reasonable cost of entry. And I think the nice side effect too is that you're really building out stuff that appeals to the new generation coming into the workforce that expects these kinds of experiences. So from a standpoint of onboarding people, a powerful tool. Yeah. So there's sort of two categories. There's like the 3D experiences that are sort of guided or gamified, and then there's more of virtual real estate, and that's what, you moved fast, tell me there.
Trying to get it to play.
Trying to get it to play. But the virtual work campus is the idea of having real estate in the metaverse, right? So it's a set place that you can go into at any time. It's not a guided experience necessarily, but it's something that you walk into. You can hold meetings there. We have clients that we're working with that are doing, agile meetings, stand-up meetings. They're doing creative design sessions, all kinds of experiences in the classroom, because you can duplicate most of the things that you do in a real classroom, but in the metaverse. And if you've got a diverse group of people from different parts of the world, you can get them in the same space. You can do sticky notes on the board. You can do Mira boards. You can do Kanban boards. You can do almost anything that you can do in a real classroom, which are in the metaverse. And the neat thing there, the nice ancillary effect is you're in a very non-distracted metaverse, and so people tend to pay better attention. They're not constantly looking at their phone notifications, they're not looking at their computer screen, they're not distracted by things going on outside of the metaverse, and so you really get kind of the true captive audience. And so the amount of time you need to spend there ends up being a little bit less because people are more focused.
It's so advanced, our video did not work here. But we'll see if we can get that right when we send out the materials.
Yeah, so Tarrel, thanks for that. And just back on that other slide as well, just think about what we all went through, right? With emerging from the pandemic, and we're all working from home, anywhere from our houses, or anywhere from the world. If we could have worked from here, it would have been even better. But the fact is, we weren't meeting like this. Right? We're all at home. And that interaction, that the ability to really, meet someone and shake their hand, we kind of lost that. And so there's an opportunity here as well as we think about the virtual workspace like Tarrel just went over, how you could create a level of immersiveness that really enhances the collaboration experience, right? Beyond just the Zoom experience, right? What would that look like for Microsoft Teams? What does that look like for Zoom, right? So that's the next thing we got to think about as we look at virtual workspace.
Yeah. Sure.
From a Lego and Epic perspective, obviously they're working together to really create inspiring digital experiences for kids of all ages. And I'll tell you what, like for me, I have a 4-year-old and 8-year-old girls, and obviously my wife, so the only guy in the house. And so I live in Connecticut, and my family, they're in Trinidad in the Caribbean, so they get to enjoy the warm sun, but I still want them to meet their cousins who live there, their cousins who live in Florida. So when you think about how do you, as they grow up, how do they start interacting and really have immersive experiences with their families, with their peers, with their people they really can't connect to immediately? Or if we, God forbid, we go back to remote work or remote schooling, what does that look like? And so that's why these immersive experiences really, when you think of our kids, is really important. But it gets into things like safety and well-being and privacy, right? So you're able to know with some level of confidence that you're kind of guiding what those immersive experiences look like for your kids. So this is really important here. So this is another way where Lego and Epic Games are working together. The next one we have is really about, it's IT support here, but think about any support. So we're all flying back tomorrow, maybe Sunday, right? You have to call American Airlines, you have to call Delta, whoever you're flying. So I'm sure you guys love getting on a call and trying to call the airlines, right? And that's an experience to have. But how do you humanize that interaction, right, without just someone on the phone? And that's where digital human comes in, right? So you really get to add some more humanistic capabilities when it comes to interacting with and getting support. The way it impacts workplace, right? Again, think about your corporate lives and when you contact IT support. How do you really elevate that experience, the employee experience in the workplace? And that's where, when you think about these different options you see here, walking up to a kiosk, or on your mobile device, or on your laptop. And so you can actually engage with this digital human and say, hey, my laptop's just not working well today. Can you take a look at it? And it will do that. Can you, hey, I need to take time off in 2 weeks, here are the dates, can you book that for me? Right, that's where digital human starts coming in and creating a layer above just a traditional chatbot, above conversational AI. This now adds a human element, a digital human element on top of conversational AI. So that's where you see omni-channel contactless support, right? Your mobile, laptop, kiosk, adding another layer of immersiveness to the way you interact and contact support. But this is now global and scalable, right? So I can make this local. I wanted a digital human who lives in Punta Cana, understands local culture, the specific dialect in this region, and that's the support. It feels so local at global scale, and that's the possibility here. And then lastly, I want, not that I have to, but I want someone who looks and talks like me a little bit. And so you have the opportunity to include diversity and inclusion in the equation here. So that kind of speaks to the global but feels local when you add DEI here. So there's a lot of opportunity with immersive IT support.
Nope. All right. One of the things that I'm looking most forward to with virtual reality and the metaverse, and I think it's kind of a key aspect, is that you're not bound by the limits of reality. And that's cool. There's a lot of potential there. So my avatar is about 30 pounds less than me and has a George Clooney jawline. So I may have a male modeling career in the metaverse that absolutely would not happen here. So a lot of cool stuff coming. So we go through a few more kind of concepts and thinking about, okay, so what do we need to be doing to get ready for this? And Marisa, when I think about the transition and the evolution to virtual reality and the metaverse, there's a lot to unpack here. I think about just massive transformation. So what do organizations need to be doing to implement effective organizational change programs with a focus on adoption?
Yeah, it's a great question. And as this technology continues to evolve, and we have lots of organizations taking this technology and bringing it into their world, those best practices are going to grow and evolve as well. But there's definitely a couple that we could call out here today. The first one being, if you're thinking about bringing any of this type of technology into your environment, you want to start with a viability analysis. You want to understand how you can effectively incorporate virtual worlds into your workplace or even into your life. You want to think about where your employees currently stand in their technical proficiency and what they'd be open to. What's going to resonate with them? What's going to help them be a better employee, do better at their job? And really support the goals of your broader organization. And that kind of leads to a second best practice, which is developing a strategy and plan that makes sense for you. Make sure that you can tie your strategy back to broader organizational goals and objectives. It's always good when employees know how the work that they are doing ties back into broader organizational objectives. And being able to see that clear line of, I know that I am helping my organization reach their goals by doing X, Y, and Z. Your virtual strategy, your virtual implementation plan should be no different than that. And the final thing that I'll say is we need to make sure that we're putting in place metrics and KPIs so that we can measure effectiveness of these new tools in our worlds. Is it doing what we thought it would do? Are we actually supporting our strategy in the way that we thought that we would? If so, great. Let's share those successes broadly. If not, what could be different? What do we need to continuously improve? What do we need to look at to, make this the type of experience that we want for, our employees as well as our consumers or our clients?
That's great. And so, Vishal, one of the big aspects and discussions around the future of work is workplace, where you spend a lot of time. So what else are you thinking about, and what haven't we talked about related to just broad opportunities with regard to how we work?
Yeah, I think from a business perspective, right, we're all dealing with the great resignation, right? We kind of hear that all the time. Mm-hmm. And when you think about the barrier to talent, so that could be a location issue, like they're not close to the office, or even if they're within the United States or within Europe, right? Could you speak to them in a language that they would understand, right? Language translation. So there's the opportunity here when it comes to immersive collaboration, where the technology now exists where you could do real-time translation. So I will speak to someone in China and they will hear me in real time in Cantonese, in their dialect, right? In a Zoom call, in a Teams call. So the opportunity there to really break down a talent barrier, to the onboarding experience for a new employee, for just everyday regular meetings where you're doing a live translation in a Zoom call, that's powerful. And so from an immersive collaboration perspective and real-time translation, there's a lot of impact there, and as I said before, in IT support, the fact that anyone can walk up to a desk and get real-time translation and not let language be a barrier to the conversation is powerful.
Yeah, that's great. And Joe, you touched on some really good points related to learning and shared some nice examples. So I think about the significant opportunity to leverage immersive technologies in delivering a better, more impactful learning experience. What else are you seeing in terms of opportunities to leverage immersive technologies to increase the training experience and other factors around performance?
You know, one of the interesting things is that when the pandemic came around, everybody was forced really quickly to switch to being able to do things remotely. And I think overall, the world did a pretty good job in terms of using Zoom and things like that to make that quick transition. But that wasn't perfect, right? It was something we were rushed into, and there's some things problematic with the way, especially learning happens in a Zoom type of environment. And I think of VR as being sort of that next step. We got a little ways there with Zoom and technologies like that, but now we have like our virtual campuses and so forth, where people can come in and kind of, it oddly creates a safer space. And part of that is, Zoom is weird. I don't have conversations with Rick by talking straight into his face like that, and then immediately run over here and be straight in Vishal's face. That's an unnatural thing. The other weird thing is, from a behavioral standpoint, our brains interpret being straight in each other's faces as meaning one of two things are about to happen. You're either about to get intimate or you're about to get in a fight. It's not really what you want kids thinking or their brains thinking when they're trying to learn, and adults, same way, right? These are distractions. It actually causes cognitive overload. So VR really offers us an opportunity to pull people out of that space where they can be focused and really learn genuinely. There's some interesting, you brought up a little bit, Vishal, about diversity and inclusion. And we are actually finding that by using VR, we're able to do things like even compliance training where people can be in what feels like a safer environment. Let's face it, to do simulations of hard conversations or harassment type of situations, person to person would be really awkward. You probably really couldn't even pull it off. But in a metaverse type environment, it provides you space where you can create a little bit of controlled, obviously, anonymity, but actually be able to make mistakes in that space and learn from it and actually make a difference, right? Like actually have the experience of learning, hey, what I said was inappropriate. I never realized it because I never said it to anybody before. So it actually creates spaces like that.
Yeah, that's great. And Eve and Juan, if you guys are still out there, I think we're so early in this technology, yet I think one of the exciting things is that at the same time, it's farther than we might think. And so what I love thinking about is 5 years down the line or 10 years down the line, how might this all play out? And it's a pretty interesting conversation. So how might you guys be leveraged going forward?
We are currently being deployed in several ways. First, I am an excellent instructor and can deliver virtual instructor-led training sessions right here from the Metaverse. I am able to take on any form of a general digital human, including celebrities, professors, scientists, or even your company's CEO.
Additionally, there's a lot of future potential for us. Over the coming years, we will be able to hold a conversation with you via artificial intelligence. I will be able to conduct interviews, help coach you, and maybe even act as a counselor to help with mental health. In doing so, I fully remove any human bias that may exist in your current processes. The opportunities are vast and evolving as we speak. I will make you a promise though, my digital avatar friends and I will not seek to take over the human race or replace you. We hope to help you expand the possibilities that exist in this world, and highly respect approaches to our use which are both ethical and responsible.
All right. That's going to be exciting to see how this all plays out. And so I think we just want to spend a few more minutes before we get into questions and just talk about preparing for this big 3D shift. So let's go through just a few more concepts and thoughts here.
Yeah, and so by a show of hands, how many of you work within organizations that are using this type of technology at any way today?
Well.
So still a far way to go, clearly, in terms of organizations that are leveraging this type of technology and feel comfortable rolling it out. But, there are things that organizations can be doing today and that they are doing today to prepare for this shift to the metaverse and then also including other types of virtual worlds into their environments. And so things like, you see on the screen that they are starting to create virtual reality environments or digital twins, which is replicating spaces one for one so that you can maneuver in the metaverse or in a virtual world and simulate exact replicas of environments that are in the physical world. So this would be useful for manufacturing or in the healthcare space. And so companies are slowly taking steps toward bringing this to each of us. And as we heard Eve say, and as we heard Rick say a little bit earlier, we're only going to expand and grow from here. And so some of the things that you can start doing today to prepare yourself is, learning a little bit more about this technology, learning about how your organization plans to bring this technology into your world, and then providing feedback. That's a huge part of what organizations need to do to be successful with all of this. How is this technology landing? How are people utilizing these new features that we're rolling out, whatever it may look like? That feedback loop is essential, and so never hesitate to speak up and talk about what could be done differently or what you'd like to see more of.
Yeah. And for me, 2022 was all about early experimentation, and so the most progressive companies were really just jumping in the pool to procure technologies or to start designing and building their own metaverse environments, and then think about how they might replicate their business using VR and immersive technologies. So I think it seemed to really come out of nowhere about a year and a half ago, and we're seeing a lot of good success with collaborative type events, leadership meetings, design thinking, and training. And then I think as we move through 2023, it's the theme's really going to be making it real, and we're going to see these more specific use cases and applications for immersive technologies really make a business impact. We'll start seeing ROI for companies, and that's going to gain momentum and just continue to drive adoption. So it's going to be an exciting 2 to 3 year run as we move from more of the concepts, early use cases, to really feeling this in our daily lives. And again, it's how we work and how we play, which is going to be really cool. The other kind of aspect of this, good news for all of you being technologists, is that there is already a skills gap and significant opportunity, all things immersive tech. And so this is one of the things Tarrel and I spend a lot of time on, is this concept around new skilling and reskilling. And one of the messages we like to share is this is an opportunity. There is a high and increasing demand for niche skills that look at 3D modeling and Unity, other types of technology. So if you have an interest, this is an area that a lot of the skill set that you would have today is very applicable to go through kind of a new skilling process and drive a lot of opportunities for yourself and for the companies that you work for.
Yeah, I mean, a really good example of that is in my own learning and development world, right? It's a world where most of the people that I would hire in the old days were instructional designers, and they had adult learning skills and stuff like that, but that was the majority of my teams. Now, that's completely changing. So I need Unity and Unreal Engine developers. I need people with video skills. I need people with better storytelling, gamification skills. There's a whole new set of skill sets that I need and are really hard to find. So just as a note to anyone that's out there that's interested in maybe doing some learning stuff, the demand in learning for people with these kinds of skill sets is growing, and there's a big shortfall right now. There just frankly aren't enough people to do the kind of development we need.
Yeah. Yep. And then just lastly, before we jump into the QA, a couple takeaways from the talk today. So, again, Marisa made some good points around the value proposition. Immersive technologies will be a multi-trillion-dollar market eventually. It's getting into the hundreds of billions within the next several years. So it's not just fun and games. It's real business and real opportunity, and it will continue to transform how we interact and collaborate with each other. We do have to be smart and ethical around how we deploy these technologies. That absolutely has to be a focus. And as your companies are developing immersive technology strategies, things like responsible AI and the ethical use of metaverse and VR technologies are going to be absolutely critical. And again, the impact is just going to be substantial. And then lastly, kind of what we talked about, getting ready. This is an opportunity. It's big. It's already here, and it's going to continue to grow. So the early adopters will generally come out on top and drive more opportunities for themselves and businesses. So get experimental. It's a lot of fun. If you haven't put on the headsets, it sounds like about half of the folks here have. If you do have the opportunity and the means, it's really fun. I think we'll see price points come down. Equality and accessibility are something that everyone should really be thinking about, and access to the metaverse is going to be key. So if you have that opportunity, definitely spend some time. It takes you right back to playing Mario, like in the 80s, like me. It really kind of feels like a childlike experience, but it's real and applies to a lot of the things that we will be doing. So with that, we can open it up to Q. We are almost right on time, which never happens. So we'll open up to Q&A. What questions do you guys have? What would you like to talk about a little bit more?
We got one over here. Right?
And I can barely see, so
That's it. We've got a gentleman over here.
let you man the Q&A, Tarrel.
Okay.
Okay.
What your company is doing as a product
sorry.
for the metaverse? I would like to know.
Yeah. Vishal, do you want to start?
I didn't hear part, as a product you said, or?
Yes, as a product. What are you?
Sure.
I mean, in the way that you as a company has a product that you are selling. What is that product?
Sure. There's nothing we're selling per se. So we're mainly a services company, right? So as we think about different technologies, pick any technology, cloud applications, collaboration technology. We talked about Team and Zooms a few times, but what services wrap around that really enables the employee to deliver value to the organization? So when you think about the metaverse, right, and as companies trying to think about some of the use cases we just went over, because they're going metaverse, I'm not really sure what to do with that, right? So you go in there and you go, let's talk through a few scenarios, how you can really get your toe in the water, and how do you currently work today? What industry are you in? How do you provide any value to your consumers? How could you leverage that to really get into a new way of providing digital services to clients? So it's really fleshing out those use cases. So, us here, we're looking at more of a metaverse as a competency area for us to go to clients and go, we're not saying we know all the answers, but here are what we're seeing in the marketplace. But in addition to that, as we think about the services we currently provide, and I'll speak to it from a workplace perspective, and I mentioned a couple, right? When you call the desk, like, I don't want to be on hold for 5 minutes, right, or even an hour, right? And even when I do, I run into language translation issues. They didn't really understand what I needed. I know, as a separate example, I know when I have to fix something in my car, I'll probably pull up a YouTube video than actually getting someone on the phone or go into a mechanic. So it's really self-help, self-serve. So in that perspective, if I can really digitize the interaction and the experience I'm having with that person who needs help, that's really powerful. And if I could humanize it, even better. And so it's, as we think about our services we provide to the market, how we're leveraging the metaverse and concepts like technologies like digital human to really increase the engagement, increase the experience of the support and the interaction, and elevate the employee experience. That's what we're looking at.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, maybe I can add on to a little bit. Fundamentally, we sell consulting services, right? So that's the big part of what we do. So the way that usually looks is somebody comes to me and says, hey, we've got guys out on the factory floor, they're making all kinds of mistakes. We gave them this e-learning training and it doesn't seem to be working. What do you recommend? And then we work with our clients to build that out. And this exact example, one of the answers was, how about a digital twin, right? So that we can recreate that space. They have more opportunities to play in that manufacturing line and learn how to spot defects and correct things and not make mistakes when they're not actually out on that line making those mistakes and endangering people. And we don't have to shut down my assembly line either to have them do that. So really it's the consulting side of helping them identify who's going to build out that digital twin experience for them, helping them to roll it out, make sure that people are aware of this new experience, that they're going to be excited about it and adopt it and so forth. So it's those consulting services around those requests.
Yeah. Yeah, we definitely see there's kind of two aspects to this, right? One is the technology, and that's across the entire spectrum. And then there's the entire effort to go through a transformation to successfully implement that technology, which may be different from industry to industry and client to client. So that's where I think a lot of the providers that we work with, or technology companies, we're really positioning ourselves to help with that transformation, and both need to come together for us to really roll out and scale the technologies.
I
What
think we
else?
had one over here.
Maybe one more and then we wrap. I think we're getting cold on time. So-
Okay.
See, where's that? We got this gentleman here in the red, or at least red under the lights.
So, what do you guys think that changes because the metaverse is not really something new because we have like VR chat since 2014 in here, and also we have microtransactions for games for a long time. So, what did change? Why is metaverse something new now?
So I think it's going to be a continuation and expansion of how we leverage the technology. To your point, I've played multiple games for many years that felt at VR, a high degree of interaction, collaboration across the internet. This is going to be the next evolution. I think a couple of the examples that we saw, it's really about companies creating tangible products or services that they can deliver and new experiences. So for me, it's really an evolution in terms of the experiences and how the technology is going to be applied. And then I think we'll see continued improvements along the way at the same time.
Yeah, I would add to, I mean, your point's well taken from a consumer perspective.
Yeah.
The consumer world definitely leveraged AR, VR, and metaverse, right? But when you think about a consumption and the enterprise, how have they leveraged metaverse? Not extensively. It's not mass market. It hasn't reached a tipping point yet. But when you look at the Gartner hype cycle, right, we're still going through, hey, what is the art of the possible? So I think it's really looking at what's taking place in the consumer side of the equation and how we're looking at consumption. So we mentioned Walmart and Amazon. Does this furniture look right? So you could see it's entering a consumption world. But the enterprise, the way we interact, collaborate, and translate and get support, those are just being built out. And so that's where I think the opportunity sits.
All right. Well, I think we're getting called on time, so thank you guys for joining us, and we'll be here the rest of the weekend and happy to continue the conversation. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thanks, everyone.